bike. So, hopefully that'll lead to something else.
Well, all the best this weekend. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. We'll be giving it our best.
No doubt about that, Peter Goddard. Fine rider, Australian Superbike champion, and he's testing his mettle today on the 500cc's. As he said, it's a whole new ball game. They're up with the thoroughbreds. Well, almost all of Australia's international stars currently campaigning on the Grand Prix and Superbike circuits cut their teeth on the 250cc production bikes. These machines are not only affordable, but being well matched, they usually present a sound test of riding talent. Let's see if we can spot some future stars as they line up for this six-lapper. Our callers are Ken Wooten and Greg Rust.
Thank you very much, Ken. Yes, indeed. And I tell you what, Ken Wooten, the editor of Australian Motorcycle News, is with me. Ken, it looks as though a little bit of rain starting to fall here at the circuit. Let's hope it keeps away.
Yes, a few spits on visors and fairing screens there, but interestingly enough, we were just talking to Peter Goddard. We've mentioned Michael Doohan, Troy Corser, Anthony Gobert, all these top Australian riders. This is the class they started their career in, the nursery of Australian road racing.
The 250cc production bike machines, minimal modifications allowed. Pitt is your pole sitter. Turnbull and McMartin, there's some talented young riders that have come up throughout the course of this year's series here.
Yes, second row of the grid, Michael Kinner on bike 4, Jeff Proctor bike 12, Chris Wilkie on bike number 35 and Philip Ryan on bike number 3. The front two rows of the grid all riding Suzuki RGV machines.
A nervous moment for a lot of talented young up-and-coming riders here. They want to do the best they can, put on the best show in front of the international audience, because who knows, tomorrow they could be looking for a ride with some of these World Championship teams if they do the right thing.
Yes, we've got a maximum grid of 40 bikes here too. That's the limit for the Eastern Creek circuit. A number of riders missing out on a start because the circuit can only hold 40. Our front two, Chad Turnbull and Andrew Pitt, bike number 1 and bike number 2. That's the way they finished in the Australian Championship this year, so they're proudly carrying their new racing plates for this season.
A very closely contested championship indeed, and these young riders really rode very hard throughout the course of that. There you can see bike number 2, Andrew Pitt, and Turnbull just off to the inside of him. Look at him there, looking really focused. That's the kind of look you expect to see from someone just like Michael Doohan.
I'll tell you what, that's the sort of look you expect when Andrew Pitt beat Chad Turnbull in the warm-up race earlier this weekend by 7/100ths of a second. It was a classic 250cc production race. Chad Turnbull just turning 19 years of age this weekend, and Andrew Pitt, he's 20 years of age. He's an economics student, so both of them similar age, very young, talented riders, hoping to be noticed by some of the Grand Prix teams here this weekend.
The preferred choice of machinery is, of course, the Suzuki RGV machines. We go on board here and see some of the fabulous footage. The RGV machines, of course, you can pick up for around $9,000 odd. For minimal modifications, Ken, you can then go racing. A lot of Australians who've cut their teeth in either speedway, in dirt track racing, this is the category where they decide that they're going to make the transition onto the black track.
Well, 250cc production racing has got two great advantages. Firstly, it's a cheap entry-level class. You can buy that Suzuki in your local dealer for $9,750. You have to use road tyres. You can put on some lightweight fiberglass bodywork, paint it up, it looks professional. The other advantage of the class is because the bikes are all the same, the racing is unbelievably close. In fact, it was Michael Doohan recently said that racing a 250cc production bike on the limit was harder than riding a superbike.
This is where these talented youngsters learn their racecraft. They're warming up the tyres at this point in time, just getting their sights set on racing here at Eastern Creek. A 6-lap journey, and they're currently on their warm-up lap. For a lot of them, this will be a fairly nervous time. We go aboard with McAteer. That would be, that's a great shot of just how cloudy it is here in the creek, and we'll keep an eye and just see no water on the visor at this particular point in time. But for someone like McAteer, who wants to put on the best show, the tension, the nerves, they must be high at a time like this.
Very, very high. But look at the presentation of that bike. These guys, they might be on the cheapest bikes here this weekend, but a lot of effort goes in to presenting them. What we're seeing now, the guys trying to keep their tyres warm. They will have been sitting in the pits with a set of tyre warmers, which are like big electric blankets. Bike number 5, Chris McAteer, he sits on the front row of the grid. He finished 4th in the opening race here this weekend. He's 23 years of age. He's a spray painter from Victoria. Our pole sitter, Andrew Pitt, the winner of the opening race. As we said, he's only 20 years of age. Chad Turnbull turning 19 this weekend. And in 3rd position on the grid, Craig McMartin from Wagga in New South Wales. He's 22 years of age.
We'll watch for some fabulous vision as it comes from Chris McAteer on bike number 5. You heard Ken Wooten mention he is coming from the front row. Jeff Ware also carrying a camera for all of the action. Now, a little bit of foxing or tactics going on here. Some of them are coming straight down to the grid, others waiting.
Well, these bikes because if you get back early to the grid, the tyres will tend to cool off, the engines will heat up. So the smart riders, or the ones that aren't succumbing to the pressure, I guess, are further back in the field and slowly coming up to the grid. As you can see, Jeff Ware there, he's warming up his tyres. It's pretty obvious that he doesn't have much support for his racing because there's that big sponsors wanted sign right across his fairing screen.
Almost getting dizzy with that lot, I've got to say. All right, the revs are starting to rise from Ware as they all come down and get all gridded up right here at the creek for the 250cc production bike support race to the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. A lot of talented young riders in this one, wanting to carve a career in motorcycle racing right here in Australia, just like Michael Doohan and Darryl Beattie. This is where they start.
Michael Kinner on bike 4, he's actually a postman by trade, so he must be a very fast one as we rev the engines up. Light goes green, and it's Chad Turnbull on bike number 1, the reigning Aussie champ, that gets the jump, leading Andrew Pitt down into the very fast turn 1.
A great run from him with the coveted number 1 plate. Turnbull down into turn number 1 for the first time. In this particular category of racing, horsepower is extremely limited, so the mid-corner speeds are just so high they've got to kick the bike up. They ride them right on the ragged edge.
Very late on the brakes and very high cornering speeds. Turnbull leads them through turn 2. Big field, 40 production bikes, the maximum field here at Eastern Creek, and it's the young Queenslander, the reigning Australian champion, out in front of Andrew Pitt on bike 2, both of them on Suzuki RGV machines.
It's Turnbull from Pitt and McAteer just in the background there aboard bike number 5. A whole host of them right in behind him. You could literally throw a blanket over them. They are so close in this category. Out of turn number 4 now, working very hard. Our leader, of course, is none other than the bike number 1 of Chad Turnbull. Watch him through this part of the circuit here. Now, I tell you what, he's going to start coming under a lot of pressure from Andrew Pitt.
What's interesting is in the first race this weekend, all the leading riders went faster than their qualifying time. They've been getting faster as the weekend goes on, as we take some fantastic vision from Chris McAteer. He lies in 3rd place. Up ahead of him, Andrew Pitt, Chad Turnbull into the very tight turn 9. Very late on the brakes here, trying to keep the corner momentum up, out of the corner and up the short straight towards turn 10 and the top of the circuit. It's very important to tuck into the slipstream here, try to get a toe along for that fast run down the front straight.
Listen to the sounds of this awesome 250cc machine. The 2 strokes. They love rev very, very high indeed, around about the 12 or 13,000 RPM mark as they work it down the front straight this time around. Turnbull not having it all his own way. Pitt right in behind him. Chris McAteer is there as well. Now it looks as though one of them touched a little bit of the dirt just off to the edge of turn 12 over the strike for the first time. We've got 5 laps left to go.
And it's Pitt out of the slipstream, up the inside, past Turnbull. Round turn 1 here, these guys roll off the throttle only fractionally. It's pretty much flat out. Now up to turn 2, hard on the brakes. Watch for Turnbull up the inside here as he tries to close the gap on Pitt. Round, tucks into the back wheel. Great move by Andrew Pitt down the front straight then, and that's what we'll see lap after lap as each rider uses the slipstream to advantage.
And they then, of course, slingshot past, tucking right in behind our new leader Andrew Pitt is Chad Turnbull, the winner of the National Series. He looks for it inside, running down into turn number 4, gets it. A good move. So Turnbull now back into the lead, and of course right in behind him, Pitt looking left, looking right, just waiting for a mistake from our leader.
This is Andrew Pitt's local circuit as he takes a quick look over the shoulder there to see how far McAteer is behind. He knows his way around Eastern Creek a lot better than Chad Turnbull, but Turnbull, the national champ, he was brilliant in qualifying, grabbing pole position, missed out by 0.07 of a second in the first race to Pitt, but now he's got his nose in front, once again down into turn 9. We've got a rider off back, it looks like turn 2 on the first lap. All right, up. Not very happy. I would suggest another bike came into connection there, but he's out of the running. Back at the front of the pack though, it's Pitt leading McAteer, both of them chasing Chad Turnbull.
Looks as though it was Kim Warburton that went down in that particular one. He'll live to fight another day. Darren Parkinson also doing a good job to avoid all that. The standings at the moment, Turnbull from Pitt and McAteer. McMartin not too far back either. Keep an eye out for Proctor and of course Michael Kinner. There is just such close racing in this race.
210 kilometres an hour is the top speed of these bikes down the front straight. As we mentioned before, they won't be backing off for turn 1. Pitt once again trying to get into the slipstream of Turnbull. I think he's in the slipstream, he's out and he's up the inside yet again, so he takes the lead. Turnbull trying to go round the outside. These bikes on maximum throttle, and the front wheel, the rear wheel scraping for traction. It's Turnbull up the outside on the white line. There's no room there.
I'll tell you what, Turnbull will not want to be caught out on the last lap if that move happens again. Pitt is just expediting it so superbly. Out of there, he works it now. Bike number 2, Andrew Pitt, and hounding right on his heels, of course, is Chad Turnbull. They work it over from turn 3, up and over the rise. Now you see there that Turnbull ducked to the inside to force Pitt wide. So Pitt's been caught hanging out wide there. He's going to have to work very hard. This is a tough, tricky part of the circuit through the intersections.
This is a fantastic battle between these two. They've been the class act of the Australian Championships throughout 1996, but they are beginning to hold each other up. In the background, you can see McAteer on bike 5. Craig McMartin now slotting himself into 3rd on bike number 6. So the 4 riders that were fastest yesterday, the ones that finished on front row of the grid for today's race, they're beginning to close up. This race is going to go right down to the wire, and I would suggest that the riders in 3rd and 4th are beginning to close the gap on our 2 leaders.
This is 3rd place, Craig McMartin of the stable Wagga machine, bike number 6, and McAteer not too far in behind him. That's a characteristic, having a little bit of a look over the shoulder when you get an opportunity like you do along this short straight here up towards turns 11 and 12 to see where your nearest rival is. This is all important through this part of the circuit, otherwise you can really make a bad run of it onto the front straight.
Turn 12, one of the most important corners on the circuit to get good drive, get the rear wheel hooking up for traction for the long run down the straight. Now McAteer, he's back a little, he's out of the slipstream, but look for McMartin on bike 6. He's beginning to pick up the slipstream of these leading 2 riders. We haven't got far to go, we're on lap 4. We've got...
and Pitt up the inside again, another great run. Turnbull caught wide through there, so Pitt is now back into the lead, and Turnbull wants to get back and argue with him down into turn number 1. The last of the late breakers. Who will it be? Turnbull. I know, I tell you what, Pitt just got there and shut the door on him.
And as predicted, we've got Craig McMartin closing in 3rd position. So we've got Pitt leading, but watch for Turnbull into turn 4. They come up over the rise, over the tunnel that leads into the pits here at Eastern Creek, and Turnbull down the inside. Here he goes again, and yes, he's forced Pitt out wide. Turnbull back into the lead, but Pitt trying to go around the outside. This is typical 250cc production racing. It's fantastic stuff, Greg, but Turnbull, our reigning Aussie champ, he's got his nose in front yet again, but look for Pitt round the outside.
Just 2 laps left in this particular one at the moment. The man with the coveted number 1 plate, Turnbull, is your leader from Pitt. And the guy who is just waiting to pounce in this lot is Craig McMartin aboard bike number 6. Now one of them has taken a little bit of an excursion there. Now that looks to me as though it's bike number... I guess number 99.
That's Doug Hall, and he's out of the action, but somebody who's still right in the action, our reigning Aussie champ, 19-year-old Chad Turnbull. What a birthday present for him this weekend, but he doesn't have time to back off here, because what he needs to do is break the slipstream of the guys behind. Let's take the replay. Flat tracking across the grass, trying to pull it up. Unfortunately for Doug Hall, hits the grass, loses traction, and that front wheel does the hippie shake, and he's out of the race.
He sort of had it half recovered, so that's a shame. A little bit of damage to that bike, but he'll get up and live to ride another day down the front straight. This time around, look for the inside running again from Andrew Pitt. Indeed, does he get it? He does. Out of the slipstream, slingshots past. So Turnbull now has to tuck in behind, but this is, of course, the 5th lap of this 6-lap journey, so that could be the place to be with 1 lap remaining down towards turn number 2. Can Turnbull sneak up the inside? Pitt simply shuts the door.
What Pitt's shown is that the person that leads onto the front straight, the slipstream, does not work until you get past the start-finish line. So it's important that whoever wants to take this checkered flag first needs to lead onto the front straight, safe in the knowledge that they think they can get there. But it's Turnbull up the inside again. This is a fantastic battle between these two.
Classic 250cc production bike racing at its absolute best. Turnbull is leading it from Pitt. Now we've had a rider go down there. He's done a good thing and sort of slid well away from the bike. You can see he's up and A-OK. Good news there. But that's happened down in turn number 8. It looks as though the front end simply washed away on him.
Well, this is what we find in 250 production racing. You have to ride the bike so hard, keep them right on the limit, that when they do let go, you've got very little time to catch them.
Confirmation through, in fact, it was Michael Kinner who went off at that part of the circuit aboard bike number 4.
He was one of our front runners in the Australian Championships, finishing 4th, but we're back there with Chris McAteer. Let's take the vision from his race cam.
Doesn't require too much in the way of commentary. Just listen to the sound of that awesome 250cc machine as he rides it right on the limit here at the creek through turns 11 and 12. Watch the line. It's all important. Nice and tight through here onto turn 12. Flat on the throttle now. He's got it wide open as he tries to chase these two. Your leader, from Turnbull, from Pitt, and of course bike number 5 riding behind him. That is McAteer.
And behind him, Craig McMartin, as we've got Turnbull leading across the start-finish line to start this last lap, and Pitt once again up the inside out of the slipstream. Turnbull's got to do it all again. Now, every lap he's been able to do it at turn 4, but McAteer's not out of this. He's up the inside, Turnbull up the outside, 3 wide into turn 2. What a fantastic scrap, and McMartin now closing the gap. We've got 4 bikes. Any of these can win this race. Out in front, Andrew Pitt on his Suzuki RGV.
McMartin just moving up to 3rd now, so that's relegated McAteer 1 further back. Watch for McAteer. He looks as though he's going for broke on this final lap. Pitt is your leader. Turnbull tucked right in behind him. In 3rd place, of course, we've got the number 6 machine of McMartin. And watch, of course, up the inside comes bike number 5. McAteer, a nice run as he comes into turn 4.
And what happened there is Chad Turnbull was unable to get past Andrew Pitt going into turn 4. So for the first time in this race, he's got to follow Andrew Pitt round for the second half of this last lap. Up the hill now, round Corporate Hill is very fast, left-hand turn 8. Knees on the deck, both bikes desperate for traction. Can Turnbull do it under brakes on this very fast downhill? Tries to go around the outside, can't close the gap.
I'll tell you what, he wouldn't want to make a move just yet. He needs to make his move just as they come out of turns 12 if he's planning it right. That's Turnbull, the coveted number 1 plate, in 2nd place, the newly crowned champion. He looks for a run up towards turns 11 and 12. That's a big, brave move from him. And Pitt doing a good job to hold him out. Coming into play also is McAteer. They are on the final corner.
Very important for drive out of this corner for the run down the straight. 60 horsepower from these RGV 250s. Pitt's got the drive. He's got the gap. Can Turnbull pull out of the slipstream?
Watch for the slipstream. Watch for the slingshot as they come down to the strike. This is going to be another photo finish and getting it right on the line. Bike number 1, Chad Turnbull takes it out. Andrew Pitt grabs 2nd. In a photo finish, they grabbed the checkered flag. We'll get confirmation of who was 3rd for you, because that went right down to the wire also between McAteer, of course, and McMartin.
Is that Chad Turnbull or Kevin Schwantz standing up on the pegs, punching the air? But not a bad birthday present for the 19-year-old Australian 250cc production champion. Let's take the replay. Here comes Turnbull. Up the outside, out of the slipstream. McAteer going to the inside, and the slingshot effect gets him across the line by what must be half a bike length over Andrew Pitt.
Okay, great stuff there, recapping the positions. Have a look at this. This is the closing stages of the 250cc production race as they came down to the wire. Bike number 1, Chad Turnbull, emerged victorious, and Pitt grabbed 2nd place. A great run there. Bike number 5, McAteer, grabbed 3rd, and of course McMartin grabbing 4th for you. That is just a taste, folks, of what is set to come your way here at the Grand Prix. Stay with us, Australia.
On a current affair, laser surgery. It's the youth tool of the 90s, but in unqualified hands.
It's crazy playing around with your looks.
Many patients are being disfigured.